Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for tonight's Randolph College information session. I'm thrilled to be joined tonight by my fellow admissions counselors. Thank you all for making this possible. I'll let us get started here in just a moment. We're going to provide you with some insight on the application process and answer your questions. We'll introduce ourselves in just a moment, but before we do, I'd like to remind you that you can submit your questions at any time using the question and answer function on the right side of your screen, or by submitting them to the email address listed in the details box of this event. If you guys don't mind, I'd like to start us off on introductions. My name is Lexi Mandarakis. I am an alum of the college from the class of 2011. I am thrilled to be the admissions counselor responsible for working with students from the states of Maryland, Georgia, and Florida. As a former member of the college's equestrian team, I'm also fortunate enough to be the admissions representative present at many of our East Coast equestrian events. That's a tongue twister. I am happy to help students at any time throughout the application process, so I hope that if there's ever anything that I can do, you won't hesitate to reach out to me and ask. So that just about wraps it up for me. Next, we'll be hearing from Brandon.
Hi, my name is Brandon Edwards, and I'm the counselor in charge of Richmond, Shenandoah, Southwest, and Southside inside of the state of Virginia. Outside the state of Virginia, I also talk to students in the states of Ohio, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Kentucky, Tennessee, and West Virginia.
Hello, my name is Lily Noguchi. I am also an alum of Randolph College. I graduated in 2013, having majored in biology and having a minor in French. While I was a student, I worked with the Gold Key Guide, so I was a tour guide touring prospective students around our campus, as well as a 4-year member of the women's cross-country team. This is my second year as an admissions counselor, and I work primarily with students from North Carolina, South Carolina, most of the Northeast, and some of the Midwest states.
My name is Christopher Bessie. I'm responsible for the Tidewater region in Virginia. I'm also responsible for the West Coast and the Midwest.
I'm Jim Duffy. I work with the students in Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia, a lot of the western states, Colorado, Arizona, Utah, Nebraska, lovely Puerto Rico, Hawaii. I think that covers. Oh, I'm also the advisor for our international program.
Great. Next up, each of our counselors has a little bit more that they would like to share with you about different parts of the application process. So Brandon is going to start us off. He's going to give us a little bit of an overview of the application process as a whole.
Perfect. So a couple things to know starting off when you're applying to Randolph is we do have some deadlines that are important. We have an early action deadline, which is already passed, is November 15th. And then we also have our regular decision deadline, which is February 15th. After that point, we do still accept applications, and it is on a rolling admissions. And to give you a little bit more in-depth details on the early action, we do not have we're not binding. So what that means, when you do apply for the early action deadline, if you are admitted, you do not have to deposit and come to Randolph College. It just simply means that you're early and you have a decision on if you're admitted or not. Of course, the pros of that is you can apply and know that you're in school early, and you can start to plan for your future at an earlier date. And of course, the cons, if you do not do that, you have to wait for whatever happens in the admissions office, and as far as getting back to you on a prompt manner.
I would like to mention also that there are 2 different ways to apply to Randolph College. There is the Randolph College application, which can be found on our website, and many of you may also be familiar with the Common Application. So Randolph is one of the schools that is included on the Common App, so you can fill out one of those and submit it to us along with some of your other possible school choices. Some of you may also be interested in learning a little bit more about what makes a strong application essay and what would make your application to Randolph College just strong and the best that it can be. So first I would like to mention that though there may be some prompts listed on the application webpage, you don't necessarily have to follow the prompts that are given to you. If you have a different topic that you would rather write about that you think kind of shows your personality or might share an experience that you've had that you think is interesting and unique, you can write about that instead of following one of the prompts. I can tell you that admissions counselors really do appreciate original works and different and new ideas. Also, I would like to mention that proofreading is very, very important. So before you submit anything on your application, get someone else to look over it, not just the essay, but the whole application. It might just, they might notice that you've missed something. But as far as your essay goes, I would recommend you bring it by someone who you trust, but someone who will also give you constructive criticism and won't just nod and agree with you on everything that you've said. So maybe that's a teacher, maybe that's one of your parents, or another friend who might just have a different point of view. There are 3 other items that are required for your application to be complete. So we'll still look for your test scores, either the SAT or ACT test scores. We'll also look for at least one letter of recommendation, and that recommendation can be written by just about anyone, preferably someone who knows you in an academic sense, but it can also be someone who may not necessarily be a teacher. It might be a counselor, it might be your youth group leader, it might be a coach, but anybody who can talk and attest to your character and just provide a different outlook than what you may have already written in your application. And then the last thing that we'll need is a copy of your transcript, so that can usually be requested from your guidance counselor and sent from your school.
All right, next I'm going to talk to you about the campus visit. The campus visit is arguably one of the most important aspects in choosing the college that you want to go to. Friends and family may have talked to you about the gut feeling that you get inside when you first go to a campus. I know that's really what happened for me when I was choosing a college. It's something that you really experience when you go to a campus for the first time. So make sure that you get to go and visit a campus. Off of that too, there are many different ways to visit a campus or to visit our campus here at Randolph. First of all, we have many different events in the spring. We have open house days, we have open campus days, and we also have admitted students days. Now you may ask, what's the difference between open house and open campus days? Open campus days are more of you're a Randolph student for a day. You get to come in and you get to experience sitting on a class, you get to eat in the dining hall, things like that. Open house is a little bit more structured. You're there for the entire day. You have a lot more going on. You have a lot more structure in the day, and you have different places that you need to be, but you still get to experience the campus in that way as well. But instead of the events and on top of the events, we have private tours as well. I like to tell my students that you can make a private tour as interactive as you want to, meaning you can come in and you can sit on a class of your choosing. You can talk to a professor while you're here. You can sit in the dining hall again. You can even stay overnight with a first-year student, which is a wonderful opportunity for you. You can do any of those things, and I would highly suggest that you go and visit any campus that you're really considering going to.
Thanks. I'm going to talk about the role of your admissions counselor as you work with them, discovering your colleges that you're considering. Think of us as guidance counselors, but on the college side, and we will help you with the entire admissions experience. And look at it as an experience rather than a dull process. We're generalists, and what we will try to do is help you to become as familiar as you possibly can with the college, so that in the end, when you have to make a decision, and the universal reply date is May 1st, you can always reply earlier if you wish, but you do have until May 1st to really get to know the college. And what we'll do, as again generalists, is we will connect you with who you need to be connected with on campus, whether it's students, coaches, faculty members, students, perhaps graduates in career areas that you're considering. Just look at us again as a principal resource to connect you with the entire college, and then look at what you're doing with each one of your colleges and universities. What you're doing is you're developing a relationship with each school. And again, the goal is to really get to know them well, not just the facts and the figures, but the qualities, the values, the personality of the school, so that in the end you can decide with lots of comfort and confidence whether it's the right place. And we tend to be extra keen about that here. Part of it is simply our buildings are all connected together. We're a small college. We will see you in the dining hall. We will see you in the hallways. I drove students all the way up to DC to get visas yesterday. I got to know them well in the car. And what we want to see is that if you are here, that you're smiling, you're happy, you're successful, you'll draw upon your experiences throughout your life, and a lot of that will start through the whole admissions experience. And we'll try to make it enjoyable. We'll try to take as much of the mystery out of it as we possibly can, which we hope will take anxiety out of it.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for sharing that information. I'm sure that everyone finds it very helpful. And of course, if there is anything that you would like to ask these counselors specifically, I know we already have a few questions ready for us, but feel free to continue to chime in at any time with any questions that you might have. So I will get started with a few questions that we have here. So the first question is talking about just the application process. They want to know, when is the best time to start the process overall?
I'll take a stab at it. The earlier the better. We get thousands and thousands of students who inquire about our college, and I'm not sharing that to be scary, because a fraction of the many that ask us for information end up applying. And so when your application comes in, you're taking a step in that relationship, and you're being the needle in the haystack, and you're letting us know you're there and that you're interested, and that helps us to focus on you. And what's also nice is that we have more or less rolling admission. So once your application is complete, we can proceed and let you know early. And again, you'll have until May 1st to make a decision. So you're not making any kind of commitment by submitting your materials early, but you are establishing your interest with us, and it does help us to focus.
And I think Jim touches on a really important point, is that the college search process doesn't start when you're filling out that application. Your college search process can start as early as, 8th grade, if you decide you want to be talking to schools that early. I mean, a lot of times we do see juniors who are really ahead of the game, and they're starting to get in touch with us and even starting to plan their visits. But the important thing is that you can start finding out information about these different schools before you start the application. And a lot of times, I think that some people would make the argument that it's better the sooner that you start, just because you can gather more information, you can understand the differences between the different types of institutions that there are, and you can start to see, okay, who offers what, and more importantly, in what way. Because ultimately, I feel that it's the way that the schools sort of share the information that they have that is really going to be what resonates with you. So you'll start to hear, we had a counselor who would tell people that, a lot of the spiels that you'll hear will start to sound the same as far as what colleges offer, and it's really the people that are on the campus and the way that they offer those things that really makes that difference, and what makes you feel like that's a good fit for you. So thank you, Jim, for taking the lead on that. So the next person wants to know how many colleges they should kind of consider applying to overall. So anyone can feel free to jump in on this question, and I think it really is going to be kind of different for everyone.
Yeah, I would say that depends on the student and how much they can handle, as far as, different types of schools, different sorts of application processes, different deadlines and that sort. A lot of schools may have, deadlines around the same time, but it really depends on, what the student is looking for. If they know that they're looking for, a liberal arts school in Virginia, then they might apply to not quite as many as if they're also looking for state schools and out-of-state schools. So sometimes we have students who apply to Randolph as their first choice, and sometimes we have students who apply to Randolph as one of several. And it also depends on the way that they apply. With the Common App, it's easier to apply to multiple schools at the same time.
Anybody else want to add anything to it? Okay, great. Next person wants to know, is there a preference for whether they fill out our application or the Common App? Do they get preferential treatment if they fill out just our application? Or
Well, I'll take that one. There's really no difference in preferential treatment. We take every application as counselors and review them. So yeah, there's no difference. Rather, you want to do the Common App because it's a little bit more streamlined. Like Lily said, if you're looking to apply to a bunch of schools, that helps you out. Or if you're looking to maybe just apply to a Randolph individually instead of the Common App, you're going to be treated the same way.
I will mention that the Randolph College application does not ask for a fee. There is no application fee if you apply through Randolph's app.
All right. Next person wants to know if they can use the same materials for the different applications. So some of these are just common questions and some of them are specific to us, just to give the audience an idea of the kinds of questions that we're willing to answer. So again, that question was, is it okay to use the same materials on different applications?
If you have a really great recommendation or a really great recommender, feel free to send that recommendation to us. I will say that if you're writing anything specifically for a certain school, that you make sure you don't send that to a different school that you weren't intending to send it to. So that goes back to what I said about proofreading and making sure that everything that you mail to any school is intended for that school.
Yep.
It's very important.
That is
It
very
looks a lot better.
And for us, it's not the end of the world if your teacher says, oh, the student would be just wonderful at the University of Virginia rather than Randolph or so. We're a small college, we know those kinds of things happen. So also when you're doing your applications, if a T isn't crossed or something like that, that does not mean that you will not earn admission to the college. And I just wanted to share one additional thing about the Common Application. All schools that use a Common Application, the admissions folks in those offices will sign a statement indicating that they will look at the Common Application just as they would their own application as well. And in that same spirit, there may not be an application fee for our application. And it's also if you use the Common Application, there's not an application fee either. So we treat both of those applications as if they were one application. So it's really your preference and what's most convenient for you. And you complete those files.
Great. Should I still apply to your college even if my test scores are grades are below your published ranges?
Guess I can take that one. I'd say absolutely. I like to tell students that we're a little bit unique in the fact that we're going to sit and analyze your entire application. We're going to sit down and read your entire essay. We're going to look through everything that you wrote down on a piece of paper. GPA and SAT or ACT scores play a large factor in the admissions process. That's just the way it is. But we really do look at your co-curriculars. We look at things you do outside the classroom as well. And all of those really do play into the admissions role.
Great. Kind of along that same lines, should I apply even if it's a school that I don't think that I can afford?
Absolutely. There are estimators out there. You can talk with the admissions folks. You can talk with the financial assistance officers at the college and get a definitive answer on whether, or at least get a good sense of what the costs will be so that you don't have to necessarily speculate on whether you can afford it or not. Often you're not going to be know what your actual cost of the college is towards the end of the process after you've applied for financial assistance, after you've received your scholarships. So the published price of a college is not necessarily what that college would end up costing you. There is often a difference between the price and the cost. And for many schools, the cost for you is going to be lower than the price because of financial assistance and scholarships. So it is well worth exploring opportunities and letting the folks in the financial assistance offices or admissions office coach and help you through that, so that in the end, come the springtime when you need to make decisions, you'll have all of the financial information that you need, and then you can sit around the kitchen table and look at all of the colleges, all the knowledge and familiarity you've gained about the particular colleges, and then you can also match those up with the actual cost to you, and then make some nice decisions from there.
Okay. That seems to be all the questions that we had so far for this evening. Like I said, please feel free to send any questions that you have to my email, which is listed in the details box of this event. I will be happy to either answer those questions myself, or if you'd prefer, I can pass them along to the counselor that you choose from this webinar. If there's ever anything that we can do, I know that each of us is more than happy to speak with you at any time. There are no stupid questions, so don't ever be shy to reach out to one of us. And thank you all again for making this webinar a possibility, and I hope that we were able to answer your questions. Have a great night.